Yo, what is up? It is Wesley-Travis, and I am here today with a storytelling video on things that I've been through as a child, and like after sitting and thinking and contemplating just about every single day on like how to make this video, how to talk about the things that I've been through. How exactly do you get onto the topic of actually talking about it? And yeah, so for most people, it is a trigger warning. Just so we're clear, there's a trigger warning. It is about how I was, well, it is a trigger warning, but my video is about how I was sexually assaulted, the trauma that I had to face, and the things I overcame. So from the age of 4 until I was 7, I was sexually assaulted by a half sibling on my dad's side. So I don't really know how to talk about it because I've never talked about my trauma and the things that I've been through. I always seem to keep everything to myself. But why not talk about it now? Since I am now 25. Oh, my camera is falling. So, yep. So I remember most of the details as if it was yesterday. I remember my mom and dad leaving to go out, and then a couple minutes after they left, he came into the girls' room, since all the girls shared a room, and then the boys' room were like in the back of the house. And then I remember him saying, "Yeah, we're gonna play a game," and chose me to come with him. And when I went with him, he took me to my mom and dad's room with him. Since their room was closer to ours, it was connected to the girls' room. And I remember when I got in the room, I asked them what kind of game were we playing. Like, were we playing hide and seek or whatever? And mind you, I'm 4. I had an older sister that was 9, an older brother that was 5, a sister not 5, that was 8, a sister that was 6. No, was she 6? She was probably 6. That's just 5, and then me 4. Then my brother, another brother that was 3, and a sister that was 2. So you think with him being the older sibling, he would protect us and make sure that nothing happened to us. But instead, he took advantage of us, well, most of us, and did not protect us. He took innocence that was not given, and yeah. So this day, I remember my mom and my dad leaving, and then a couple minutes later, he came and said, "We're going to play a game." Got me, and then we went to my parents' room and asked what kind of game it was that we were playing or whatever. Told me that we're playing a game called Mommy and Daddy, and that it was our secret game. And me being 4, didn't really think nothing of it, because as a 4-year-old, you aren't really, I don't know, you don't really understand a lot of things. But the kids today, they understand a lot. It's something in the foods today. But so yeah, so I remember me being placed onto a bed, on my mom and my dad's bed, and being on my belly, and him taking my clothes off me. And the next thing that I remember is him touching me and spitting on me. Like, he spit on my, like, inside my butt, and then inserted himself into me repeatedly. And I remember just laying there, like, trying to block everything out. And then after he was done, he said, "It is our secret, and I can't tell anyone." And then he took me back into my room, and I never talked about it, never talked about it, and then it happened again and again and again and again. And then one day he tried to do it to my 2-year-old sister, and I said, no, she's a baby. Like, she basically is a baby, and she didn't need to go through any of that, and begged him to take me instead. And it's just weird because, like, we're your siblings. Like, we're way younger than you at that, and you're exposing us to something that we should not have been exposed to. But he did not take the 2-year-old. He did take me, and from that day, I think I don't know. Um, so yeah, so eventually he ended up getting caught because he tried to do it with someone else, and they told, and then they asked us about it, and I legit never said anything, never talked about it. Went to counseling and therapy, still didn't talk about it. And I was like, it just made me feel weird. Like, and then even talking to people made me feel weird. So I was always shy because I was always afraid to actually talk to people. And then to this day, I still cannot tolerate, like, being, like, I can tolerate it, but like being around men makes me very nervous, especially if I'm alone with men. It makes me very nervous because you never know the intentions of people. And then, mind you, I look I look exactly like my older brother, so it's it's crazy. I was like, I don't think of myself as like, I like myself. Well, I love myself. It's like nothing, nothing against myself or whatever, but yeah. And then I think the fact that I actually forgave him helps a lot because if I didn't forgive him and I was to look at myself every day in a mirror, I would definitely hate myself. But because I'm able to get past my trauma and the things that I've been through, I learned, like, I learned to love myself each and every day a little more than I did the day before, if that makes sense. Not that I didn't love myself, but I'm learning, relearning to, like, really love myself because of everything that I've been through. It's like it is hard because some days are better than others, like, and some days aren't. Because, like, everybody deal with things different ways and they cope different ways. So with me, like, me just bottling up all my trauma and, like, just keeping it down to myself, that's not healthy or whatever. But I try because I don't like to talk about it, and I don't like when people just say, "Oh, I'm so sorry for you," and, like, I don't like that. I don't like to be pitied or whatever. And then my other thing is, like, it didn't stop with my brother. So I, like, even, like, um after the fact, and, like, realize and overcoming that trauma and forgiving him, like, it, the sexual assaults didn't stop with him. I was like, I remember one day being home alone, and, like, my brother's friends came over and they were looking for him, and I was like, they're not here. And I tried to close the door on them, and it was two of them, and they chased me back into the house and tried to rape me. But eventually, I overcame them by kicking one in the private and going after the other one with a knife. But, you know, people, some people don't understand no, and they don't they just don't understand it. And then not even that. So after that trauma, me finally healing and everything, boom, babysitting. I used to babysit. Like, well, I still do occasionally, but not is I don't really babysit in people's homes anymore. So babysitting, mind you, the kids about 7 and 8 years old were also friends, and their mom was working with my mom at the time. Yeah, their mom was working with my mom at the time, so we're like pretty familiar with them and everything. And then um, it was all right. Back to what I was saying before. My phone cut off. So yeah, we're friends. Their mom worked with my mom, and then they were supposed to come back to my house the night that I watched them, and that didn't happen. Their dad told them that they can just come in the morning when their mom got off to bring them over there. So I was like, okay, and I was like, well, I'll just stay and call my mom or just spend the night and have her drop me off in the morning with them. But he said no, and that he was just gonna take me home. And mind you, should have thought something of it because he smelled like he was drinking. I was about 12 at the time. Um, I was, yeah, I was like 12 or 13 at the time. And then there was also another guy in a car, someone that my auntie used to date. So mind you, you'd think I would get dropped off first, but no, he dropped the guy off first. And then when he dropped the guy off, he asked me to get into the front seat. I insisted on staying in the back, but he was like, it's weird to ride in the back seat if there's only two people in the car, and insisted for me to get in the front. So I'm like, okay. Um, so like 15-minute drive home or whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. So me thinking I'm going home, but I also am very aware of my surroundings. He pulls into an abandoned house lot where there is like this abandoned house, but then there's like this big parking lot there also. And he says to me, undo your seatbelt and climb over here. And I was like, what do you mean undo my seatbelt and climb over there? He's like, undo your seatbelt and climb over here on top of me. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. I just want to go home. And he's like, I'm going to take you home and I'm going to pay you what I owe you plus more. Um, just take off your seatbelt and climb over here. And I'm like, no. So he reaches over and tries to undo my seatbelt and tries to put me on top of him and inside of the car. And I'm like, nah. So I unlock the door and I jump out and run to the first house that I see that it had people sitting on the porch and their light was on. But as soon as I ran over, they went into the house, and I was knocking on the door asking them if I can use their phone to call my mom because he just tried to rape me. And they looked at me, then looked at the car as he's screaming, get back in the car. I promise I'm going to take you home. I'm not going to do anything to you. I'm going to take you home. And closed their door saying no and turned off their porch light. So I stood there on their porch, and so he pulled off crying, and I was crying. And then I realized that my cousin had a grandma that lived around the corner or like a block away. So when he pulled off, I could still hear the loud music from his car playing, and I ran as fast as I could to her house, and I was knocking on the door for what seemed like forever. What seemed like forever for her to come, and then I didn't know my mom's number by heart, and I didn't have a phone, so I asked her if she could call my cousin and have my cousin call my mom to come get me. And then my mom filed a police report, but they said because he didn't actually do anything to me and only reached over to undo the seatbelt, they could not do anything, which is crazy. Because from what we were told after that, a lot of people accused him of the same exact thing, but some accused him of actually doing things to them, and still they did nothing. Mind you, he got two young girls two young daughters at home, and he used to comment on one of their chests. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, I'm glad nothing happened to me, and I'm glad I actually watch a lot of TV and everything. Uh, well, I watched a lot of TV and everything to be aware of be aware of things. And I was like, it was crazy. So then, fast forward, we get past that. I'm a senior in high school now, and my mom's dating this guy. And the guy ends up getting in a motorcycle wreck and almost dying. Not, I'm not smiling because it's funny or whatever. I'm just smiling because that's the way I cope, and I'm also talking. So I don't want to tell a story with a mad look or whatever. So, and like, it's crazy. So she's dating this guy. And the guy gets into a motorcycle wreck and almost dies. And I remember this night because it was like my cousin stayed the night, and we were sleeping in a den, and there's like two couches in there that we pushed together to make a bed so that he can have cover and everything. And also because we were staying up all night making videos, like just trying to make like funny videos and stuff. And then like I remember falling asleep, but I woke up and my cousin was still beside me, and for some reason he was asleep with a pack of noodles because he pulled the noodles and the cover close to him. And I remember like feeling a hand in my pants and like someone over my head, and I'm just laying there like, what the heck is happening? And then I like feel the hand go, like I'm like just laying there like what's happening in shock and everything, and I'm like, bruh, I like look up and I was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I don't know how I got down here. I'm not supposed to be down here. I'm so sorry. And then I remember my mom, she came downstairs and she got and was like, why are you down here? How'd you end up down here? Where'd you go? Or whatever. And then I remember like me being in shock and like me texting my sister because at the time she was in Alaska, so I figured she was still up or something. And then she was like, tell somebody that's actually there. So I remember writing my uncle or called my uncle and I told him, and then he told my mom about it, and then the guy tried to lie to my mom about it. I'm like, it's so crazy. But eventually the truth came out. The guy apologized. I forgave him, but then nah, it was nothing like that. But I did forgive him because I am a forgiving person, and you cannot go through life with a lot of hatred because hate sits doesn't sit well in your in certain people's heart, and there's no need to be hateful, even when people do things that harm you and hurt you. It's always good to forgive, but you don't have to forget. So that's like the most of the trauma that I went through, and what basically made me the person I am today. Because without going through things, you can't get to where you need to be. So, past the sexual assault and everything, my next, well, I won't say my actual next trauma was heartbreak, because a lot of people go through heartbreak. Some people go through heartbreak a lot of times, and then eventually you think like, okay, I'm gonna stop dating or whatever. But nah, that's not the case for me. So my last heartbreak was not my last heartbreak because I did not let it define me. So my last heartbreak, um, I say it happened 2015, and so then I stopped dating for like 4 or 5 years, and then I realized, well, at the time I realized, because a lot of people don't know, I did date girls, and so I was like, at the time of that heartbreak, I said, why go through something with a woman when you can go through the same thing with a man? Because everybody lie, they cheat, and some are just better than others at it. I know I'm trying to fix this. So I was like, yeah, why not just do it with a man? So then I moved from Alabama to Louisiana, and I didn't know people in Louisiana besides my sister, my brother-in-law, and my nephew, but that's besides the point. So I ended up meeting a guy, and at first I used to blow him off a lot. It's like, nah, can't go out. I got my nephew. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But I was trying to play hard to get, mainly because I was also scared. I was scared, a little terrified because I get uncomfortable around men and everything. But after that, I mean, we started talking for a little bit, then things happened, stopped talking, then a hurricane happened, and then started talking again. And what do you know now? We're married, living in Alaska. It's crazy. That's a story for a different day. But yeah, I was like, the last 3 years have been amazing. I've learned I learned more about myself than I thought I knew, or whatever. A little less about myself. But yeah, it's like update to that because of my trauma and everything. I always after the trauma and like growing up with repeated trauma of like repeating itself and everything, I told myself I can never put a child through the things that I've been through. So I started to want to advocate for people or yeah people and youth that was like sexually assaulted and everything, or that might have been like touched on, molested, raped, or whatever, and just tell them like you don't have to be afraid to speak up because there's a lot of help out there. There's a lot of people who've been through the same thing that you've been through. Some who still going through things that you've been through. Like you can't. Well, yeah, you can't let hurt or trauma define you as a person. Um, yes, it's gonna take time to get through, and yes, it's gonna take time to heal. But don't let that be the downfall of you. Don't let that be the reason why you hold you hold back or set yourself for less than what you are. Like I could have let my trauma define me, but instead I decided to do something positive with it. I decided to start working with kids because it starts there. Like a lot of people don't realize that like what with working with kids, you actually learn a lot. Like I know kids go through things. They go through a lot of things, and sometimes they don't have no one to turn to. But like me working with kids, you gotta you build trust and relationships, and then kids come and talk to you about certain things that they're going through and everything. And so from there, I decided that I wanted to be a foster parent and help kids who can't who aren't able to get help like from their parents or who aren't able to be with their parents. And so that's the reason why part of my trauma is the reason why I decided to foster also, because it also starts there. Like kids kids in foster care, they go through a whole lot, and in most foster homes, kids are molested and touched on, and it also starts at home first before the foster home or them getting removed from their home. And a lot of kids, they don't have people that they don't know or have people that can relate to things that they've been through. And like me, I can advocate and say like, hey, I know things are hard. I went through the same thing. Here's things that I did or didn't do to like cope with things that happened in my past or whatever. And so like me fostering has been the most exciting thing of my young adult life that I could have done. And I would not trade that for anything. And I know a lot of people have problems with like fostering or taking in kids that aren't theirs, but if you have a good heart and your heart is in the right place, I say why not do it? Like a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, most people do it just for the money and not because their heart is in the right place. But me personally, money is nothing. Like watching a child grow each and every day and learning different aspects of life, and you can actually see the joy and the changes and the little progress that you are making within that child. It feels so good. Like it is very overwhelming. No, it's not overwhelming, but it is a nice feeling for real. And then I was like, I wouldn't trade it. Even though like the situation that I'm in right now with fostering, I still wouldn't trade it because you got to go through things in order to get somewhere. And it's like, things happen whether you want them to or not, but yeah, they do. And this right here is the end of my video. It's like I've been trying to complete this video just about all day. It is now 4:40 almost, and yeah, so I'll say like, comment, subscribe. I will drop another video either today or tomorrow or a week from now or whenever I feel like it again. But yeah, thank you for tuning in and listening to me talk about random things.